by Avo Technology.
For the silver ring on his brother's nose, the boy entered the cruel death duel arena, challenging the strongest warrior weighing 180 kilograms. Seeing his emaciated appearance, the burly man contemptuously turned away. Unexpectedly, the boy rushed forward and delivered a fatal blow. Using a scratching motion that left the burly man bewildered, just as he was about to leave, the boy kicked again. It was not highly damaging, but extremely insulting. Amid the laughter around, the burly man finally harbored murderous intent. The oppressive feeling of death came until the boy was cornered. In a critical moment, he viciously kicked the nearby utility pole, causing a pre-cut high-voltage wire to fall down. It hung perfectly behind the boy, unbeknownst to the burly man. Just as the burly man was about to attack the boy's little hand suddenly grabbed the wire. The anxious brother rushed out and delivered a powerful punch to the boy's chest. Only then did the boy wake up, struggling to stand until the burly man continued to howl in pain on the ground. Diva, using a self-damaging strategy, astonished everyone. The opponent hurriedly returned the brother's ring. It turned out to be a symbol of power and honor. The nose ring. The brother was none other than the young Prince Dela. Despite being a child of an ordinary family, the two brothers had a deep bond since childhood, and their mother treated Dela as her own child, providing the love he had been missing. One day, Diva nailed thousands of iron nails on the door and trapped their mother inside. A loud crash followed as a car broke through the gate. Two sturdy men subdued Diva, while others forcefully pounded on the door. It turned out that the territory had a bizarre rule. If the lord fancied a woman, his subordinates would forcibly bring her back. After 3 days and nights of assault, the chosen women would tragically die. Diva's mother happened to be selected that day, and despite Diva securing the door, the burly men eventually broke in. Diva struggled desperately, and his mother wore a look of despair. Just at the critical moment, young Prince Dela arrived. He intended to save his mother, but the cunning lord invoked the law. It turned out the old king had decreed that each lord could manage their territory in their own way. Even the princes could not interfere. Helplessly, Dela had to abandon his best territory to ensure the safety of Diva and his mother. The opportunistic lord gathered his men and left. In order to ensure the safety of the mother and son, Dela had to send them away with his subordinates, because after this night, he feared for his own safety. Diva realized the severity of the situation, but faced a dilemma between his mother and brother. So, he made a solemn promise to Dela that regardless of the dangers, he would sacrifice himself whenever Dela called. After the mother and son off, Dela faced severe punishment from the old king. He didn't understand the true meaning of the bracelet he had given away. 1,000 years ago, there were 3 terrifying tribes: the Mana tribe, the Shuli tribe, and the Gani tribe. These tribes were not only powerful in battle, but also brutal and bloodthirsty. The 3 tribes maintained a balance, turning the forest into a formidable fortress, which became the origin of Cancel. Even the mighty British Empire, which dominated India 200 years ago, couldn't gain any advantage in the Cancel region. Each attempt to conquer this area ended in failure. After India gained independence, the leader of Cancel arrogantly removed the name from the India map, but Cancel's rules constrained every Indian. In modern times, Cancel was not just a city. 95% of India's smuggling, gambling, oil, firearms and other businesses were controlled by Cancel. To facilitate management, the king divided Cancel's territory into 101 districts, each with a unique bracelet. Each of the 61 lords had 1 bracelet, the 8 governors had 3 or more, and the king himself had 15 bracelets. Yesterday, Dela not only gave away his business and territory but also lost his position as governor with just a casual decision. The king was furious and henceforth paid no attention to him. It wasn't until years later that Dela remained a small lord, perhaps due to the old age of the king, who wanted to make amends to his son. He ordered Governor Lanka to return the bracelet, causing distress and pain for Lanka. The king had found the bracelet 20 years ago, allowing him to become the governor. Now, just a year into inheriting the position, Lanka was unwilling to give up this newly acquired seat. He excused himself, claiming that the handover process was complicated and required 10 days of preparation.
నేను ముఖ్యమైన కారణం వల్ల కాన్సార్ నుంచి బయటకు వెళ్తున్నాను. తిరిగి వచ్చాక వరదరాజమన్నార్ని త్వరగా చేసే క్రతువు.
The king arrogantly left, but as the helicopter took off, some cunning governors, led by Lanka and Ruda, couldn't resist any longer. Rude was Della's half-brother from a different mother, the boy who opposed Della at every turn during their childhood. He was originally the next heir to the throne, but Della's rise forced him to be on guard. Now, Della became their common enemy. Influenced by those with ulterior motives, the strong intent to kill could no longer be restrained. As long as Della died, Lanka wouldn't have to give up his position, and Rude would be the sole heir to the king. Outside the grand hall, Della was celebrating with his brothers, unaware that in a few hours, his territory would turn into a massacre. This modern society harbored the most terrifying primitive tribes in a small area, equipped with the world's strongest military. With an iron-fisted approach, the king had turned Kansal into an impenetrable fortress with its own laws and a clear hierarchy. The king held supreme power, followed by 8 influential governors and 61 landlords, who formed the decision-making body of Kansal. Each decision made in this palace could cause significant upheavals in India's politics, economy, and military. To consolidate power, the king appointed the most trusted individuals as governors, with 4 of them being his family members: Omay, the brother of the first queen; Lud, the eldest son; Barawa, the son-in-law; and Sheka, the nephew. However, there was an exception, his youngest son Della, who, because of a careless act of discarding the Lord's bracelet when he was young, incurred the king's wrath. Since that day, the king had neglected his youngest son. In this brutal and survival-oriented place, Della, without the protection of his father, lived a humble existence. Despite being a lord now, he constantly faced humiliation and provocation. However, he knew that these days of disgrace were about to end. The king, sensing an unsettling force at play, made a bold decision to leave Kansal city for a while. During his absence, his daughter would act as the interim king to oversee things. Besides, he had more significant news to announce: Della's promotion to the position of governor, replacing Lanka. Before leaving, the king specially patted Della's shoulder, presenting him with an opportunity and a test. As soon as the king departed, several governors, eager to seize the chance, came forward. Apart from Lanka, there was one person who harbored deep hatred towards Della, his brother Rude. Rude, who had always coveted the throne, felt threatened by Della's rise. While the king was away from Kansal city, these two initiated a frenzied massacre in Della's territory. By eliminating Della, Lanka could retain his position as governor, and Ruda would become the sole heir to the throne. As the flames soared, the entire territory became a field of corpses. Despite Della's subordinates fighting fiercely, they couldn't escape the fate of being captured. However, just as the execution was about to take place, the palace bell suddenly rang. Only the highest decision-maker could order the ringing of this bell. Could it be that the king had returned? Anxious, everyone rushed into the palace, only to find the king's daughter, the current acting king, coming out. She intervened to stop the conflict between her 2 brothers and declared a comprehensive ceasefire in Kansal city. However, Rude adamantly refused, citing their laws that required the king himself to announce a ceasefire, or it had to be decided by a vote of all the governors and lords. Helplessly, the acting king had to schedule the vote 9 days later, hoping that their father would return by then to prevent chaos. Although no one could engage in violence during these 9 days, each lord summoned forces from around the world, making thorough preparations for the upcoming war. Various armed forces from over 30 countries, including Russia, Serbia, Sudan, Afghanistan, and more, gathered. Della's subordinates were extremely anxious, as it seemed that everyone would face certain death after these 9 days. However, Della remained calm. He had powerful reinforcements, which would be the crucial factor for his comeback against the odds. The next morning, Della, accompanied by his subordinates, headed out to bring reinforcements. The vehicle sped along until it reached a remote border town, finally stopping in front of a blacksmith shop. Seeing the back of the blacksmith, Della immediately recognized him as the person he was looking for. Although it had been 20 years, the bond between the two brothers remained undiminished. After learning about Della's current situation, Deva didn't hesitate. He bid farewell to his mother and took a car back to the city. It was a promise Deva made when he was a child to follow his brother's call into any perilous situation. Stepping into the Devil's City after 2 decades, Deva was ready to face the unimaginable. No one could believe that a single person would dare to confront tens of thousands of soldiers, and even fewer believed that this person could overturn the centuries-old rule of Kansas City. 9 days later, during the ceasefire vote, a massive palace scale stood in the palace. The left side represented war, and the right side represented ceasefire. All governors had the voting privilege. As the hourglass started counting down, they placed their bracelets on their respective sides. Despite many hoping for a peaceful resolution, under the pressure and persuasion from one side, the majority placed their bracelets on the left side. Sister Scale, with a helpless expression, had no better reason to stop the proceedings. Until the last few governors cast their votes, the results were evident. The left side of the scale significantly outweighed the right. Everyone showed regretful expressions, as war seemed inevitable. Rude, possessing overwhelming military strength, would undoubtedly crush Della. Just as the announcement of the results was about to happen, a rumble echoed from above. As a helicopter landed, the Supreme King finally returned. Passing by Della, the king removed the power bracelet and unhesitatingly placed it on the right side of the scale. This bracelet carried 15 votes, instantly equalizing the count to 48-48. The crucial final vote fell to Della. Della calmly approached, resolutely took off his bracelet and placed it on the right side, sealing the ceasefire.
ఈ మాట నువ్వెప్పుడు అంటావని ఎదురు చూస్తున్నానురా. నీ సలహాతో సరైన నిర్ణయమే తీసుకున్నా. నాలోనూ ఖచ్చితంగా మన్నా రక్తమే ఉంది.